Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Miracle. Maybe for short, if this is the first time seeing my video face, you're welcome. So our next video is also from Thomas Sowell TV, and it says the origin of left wall on white people in America. Let's check it out.
Uh, these issues are very real. There's more issues here. Racism is a very serious problem in the United States. Take a look at the scholarly work on it, say George Fredrickson's study of white supremacy, comparative study. He concludes, I think, plausibly that the white supremacy in the United States was even more extreme and savage than in South Africa. Just think of our own history.
My concern is doing away with whiteness. Whiteness is a form of racial oppression, sure. The suggestion is that it is somehow possible to separate whiteness from oppression, and it is not. There can be no white race without the phenomenon of white supremacy. If you abolish slavery, you abolish slaveholders. In the same way, if you abolish racial oppression, you do away with whiteness. Treason to whiteness is loyalty to humanity.
Your views are fairly well received in academia.
Yes, they're legitimate, not to say that everyone agrees, but sure. I could not point to any examples where it has provoked political censorship. Whiteness is an identity that arises entirely out of oppression. Whiteness is not a culture, it's not a religion, it's not a language, it's simply an oppressive social category.
Learn from history. The minority has never been able to control the majority. White Americans will soon be a minority, and that's great.
Intellectuals and race. If minorities were seen as the problem during the Progressive era, the majority was seen as the problem during the liberal era that began after the Second World War. The central premise of liberal intellectuals for decades was that the racial problem was essentially inside the minds of white people. Explain that, Tom.
Well, what Gunnar Myrdal, who did the classic study on this, said was that you didn't even have to look at what blacks did. You could only just look at what the whites were thinking, and this suggests that that these random thoughts from nowhere were the reason for the problems. The problem was that different groups of people have been different in substance all around the world and for centuries, and that blacks and whites in the United States are no exception to that. And it's very hard to have a society where people with very different cultures coexist.
Tom, you quote in Intellectuals and Race the famous black writer James Baldwin. He's writing in 1960, quote, "People in Harlem know they are living there because white people do not think they are good enough to live anywhere else. In a new housing project in Harlem, they naturally began smashing windows, defacing walls, and, you'll forgive me, but this is his language, urinating in the elevators," close quote. What's wrong with his thinking?
Oh my gosh, you'd need a couple of hours. But it so happens I grew up in Harlem in the 1940s, 1950s, and you didn't expect to find people urinating in places where black people lived. In fact, there's very little attention given to the fact that the public housing of that era was radically different from the public housing of today. I remember we had a relative of ours got into some public housing. We were so proud because you had to have a certain character, a record, and so forth to get in. These were not places where you had dumping grounds for people who were at the bottom of the pile.
There was no less discrimination in the 40s and 50s in the minds of white people toward black people
That's
when
right.
you were growing up in Harlem.
That's right.
And yet Harlem, I was just thinking about this the other day, that great Duke Ellington classic, Take the A Train.
Yeah.
The A Train was and remains, as far as I know, the subway train up the west side of Manhattan.
Yes.
It's what white people used to get to Harlem. Harlem
Yes.
was an attractive place. It was a place of culture and
Yes.
excitement. So what was it then, if it wasn't in the minds of white people, what took place in Harlem in the 60s?
I think the 60s was a period of general irrationality, and wherever there's irrationality, there are people who know how to turn that irrationality to their benefit. And you began to get some very opportunistic leaders who then began to say things that they knew to be false, but which they knew would advance their careers.
Now, let me quote Intellectuals and Race one more time. "Among the differences between the two eras, that is to say, the time you grew up in Harlem and the 60s, was that the intelligentsia, both black and white, became more prone in the later period to make excuses for moral squalor and barbaric behavior. Your words here. After such notions permeated the society, barbaric behavior and moral squalor became accepted norms within some segments, close quote. So you are not merely making the argument, I'm asking, that the liberal view that what was in their minds dictated the behavior of African Americans. That you're not merely making the view that liberals were mistaken. You're making the view that you're making the argument that they were culpable.
Yes. And as I point out in a few places in the book, you can go to England and see the very same pattern emerging, including this pattern where kids in school who are trying to do well get beaten up by other kids. Theodore Dalrymple is a doctor in Britain, and he writes about the kids who have to go to the hospital. They're so badly beaten up simply because they're doing well in school. And these are
See, guys, see. I was so shocked at how broken America seems to be. Seriously, even up till now, I'm still shocked. Like, the thing is still surprising me. Is it the America that I grew up to look up to? Is it the America that I grew up to like? Because I'm just like I grew up watching American movies. And I do see how respect they have for themselves, for their cultures and everything in so many aspects of America's society. But this new work, oh gosh, it's a no work area. This inclusive of all castes, gender affirming, pronouns policing, gangster, taking drugs openly, hip-hop violence, like different things, taking drugs in the street openly. Like, guys, that's even the most shocking one. I'm telling you, that's the one that is even shocking me. Because here in Nigeria, they should go out openly and take it now. They should go out openly and take it. They should go out openly and take it now. Who will even dare? This kind of thing, they do hide. Even though they're hiding too, they used to still look for them. Yes, they used to look for them. The way they used to look for them, you see, you hardly see someone come out openly that he's taking drugs. Yes, you hardly see. But in America, it's beyond shocking, because I don't watch so many videos on YouTube. Sometimes I'll be wondering, is this the America that I grew up to know? Or is another America? I want to know. Because everything is just like, I don't even know. And it seems that all good things that I used to like about America have all been drawn out by savage mobs. Yes. Like, I don't even know. And the most annoying thing that someone will be addressing, somebody will be a racist and be addressing racism. Like, how? Guys, America. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like, watch, and subscribe to my channel, and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye bye.